The other side of midnight. What the hell? Ethan whispered to himself, his voice trembling in the stillness of the night. His heart hammered in his chest as his eyes shot open. The clock on his nightstand read 3:17, its cold, unblinking digits staring back at him, frozen in the eerie silence that engulfed the room. He had been jolted awake by an incessant pounding at the front door. Bang! 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 The sound rattled through the house, frantic and aggressive. It was as if something, or someone, was desperate to get inside. Ethan's breath caught in his throat, fear seeping into his bones. He was alone. There was no one who should be at his door at this hour. "Let me in. Please. Let me in." The voice, muffled and panicked, cried out from the other side. The doorknob rattled violently, as though the intruder were trying to break through. His mind raced, panic spreading like wildfire. Was it some deranged person? A break-in? His thoughts spiraled, each one darker than the last. In an instant, his hand flew to his phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. He backed away from the door, his body rigid with fear. 911, what is your emergency? The operator's voice was flat, tired but professional. There's someone at my door, Ethan managed to croak, his voice barely above a whisper. They're banging on it, begging to come in. I don't know who it is, but I think they're dangerous. He swallowed hard. Please, hurry. Stay on the line, sir, the operator replied, calm despite the situation. We're dispatching an officer now. Just stay inside and keep the door locked. The minutes that followed felt like hours. The banging grew louder, more forceful, until it felt like the entire house was shaking with each hit. Then, abruptly, it stopped. Silence blanketed the house, thick and suffocating. Ethan stood frozen in the middle of his living room, his phone pressed to his ear. Hello? Are you still there? The operator's voice broke through the stillness, her tone slightly more urgent now. The officers are outside. Ethan's pulse quickened, but he didn't hesitate. He rushed to the door, his body trembling as he unlocked it. 2 officers stood on his porch, their eyes scanning the yard, weapons at the ready. Anything unusual, sir? One of the officers asked, his voice low, alert. I swear, there was someone, something, trying to get inside, Ethan explained, his voice ragged with fear. I don't know who it was, but I heard them, begging to be let in. The officers exchanged a look, then stepped toward the door, examining it carefully. After a moment, one of them sighed and shrugged. Probably an animal, sir. Maybe a raccoon or something. They sometimes mess with the door handles. We'll do a sweep of the area, but I'd say you're safe now. Ethan stared at them in disbelief. An animal? He had heard a voice, distinct, human. But he didn't argue. He nodded, feeling an odd sense of relief mixed with confusion. After the officers left, he locked the door again, but the feeling of unease clung to him like a shadow. He couldn't sleep. Not with the strange noises still echoing in his mind. But he had no choice. Exhausted, he crawled back into bed, pulling the covers tight around him. The dark corners of the room felt alive, and the thought that something was lurking just beyond the door kept him awake for hours. The following nights followed the same unsettling pattern. Night after night, Ethan would wake to the sound of the doorknob rattling. Sometimes, it was just a whispering murmur. Other times, there was a heavy, deliberate breathing on the other side, like something was waiting, listening. And then, in the dead of night, the same desperate pounding would return. Each time, Ethan would call the police. Each time, the officers would arrive, sweep the area, and find nothing. They'd leave, dismissing it as nothing more than a figment of his imagination. But the noises didn't stop. Ethan's sanity began to fray at the edges. He knew what he had heard, and he knew it wasn't just his mind playing tricks. Something, or someone, was out there, and it was getting closer. One night, Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He decided to stay up. To confront whatever, or whoever, was haunting him. He made himself comfortable on the couch, the TV flickering in front of him, its light casting long, twisted shadows across the walls. He had planned to stay awake, but exhaustion soon crept in. His eyes fluttered, and before he knew it, sleep overcame him. When the clock struck 3:17, the sound of frantic banging on his front door jolted him awake. This time, the pounding wasn't just a random noise, it was urgent, ferocious. Whatever was out there was trying to get in. "Please. Let me in. He's almost here." The voice screamed through the door. Ethan's blood ran cold. He knew that voice. It was familiar. But how? His stomach twisted in knots as he inched toward the peephole, drawn by a morbid curiosity. He held his breath and peered through the small circular lens, his pulse pounding in his ears. What he saw made his stomach drop. Standing there, drenched in blood, clothes torn and filthy, was himself. But not the way he looked now. No. This man, this thing, was darker, twisted, as though it had crawled from a nightmare. His eyes were wide with terror, but they weren't his eyes. The figure in front of the door looked wrong, unholy. It wasn't him. It couldn't be. Ethan recoiled, stumbling backward, his heart thundering in his chest. His hands fumbled as he tried to back away, his legs weak beneath him. He tripped over a stray shoe and fell hard against a small table, the impact of his head hitting the corner making everything go black. When Ethan awoke, it was to darkness and confusion. His body jerked upright in bed, gasping for breath, heart hammering in his chest. His hands flew to the clock beside him. 3:17. But something was wrong. The room around him, it wasn't his. The walls seemed off, distant, like they were stretched too thin. The furniture was arranged differently, the shadows in the corners were heavier, more suffocating. He stared at the walls, his mind desperately trying to make sense of it. He climbed out of bed, his feet cold against the floor. He turned toward the window, and his breath caught in his throat. Outside, the neighborhood lay in a deathly stillness. The trees were nothing but twisted, leafless skeletons, their branches clawing toward the black sky. There were no streetlights, no glow of life. Just an oppressive darkness that swallowed everything. Panic surged in Ethan's chest. He stumbled toward the window, gazing across the street at his real house. He could see the familiar glow of the lights on the lower floor, his actual house. But it wasn't right. Something felt wrong. He couldn't stay here. Without thinking, Ethan bolted out the door and ran across the street. His breath was ragged, his heart pounding in his throat as he reached the front door of his house. He pounded on it, frantic, desperate. "Let me in. Let me in," he screamed, his voice cracking with fear. He backed away, his eyes darting around, trying to make sense of the nightmare surrounding him. And then, through the window, he saw it. Himself. Lying motionless on the floor of the foyer, blood pooling beneath him. The clock on the wall read 3:17. Ethan's breath hitched. His world spun as the realization hit him. He wasn't in his world. He wasn't in his house. He was in the place where the darkness had begun, and it had taken him. He stared through the window, unable to look away, his mind spiraling into a frenzy. His hands trembled as he backed away from the door, but he knew, that there was nowhere to run. The dark version of himself, the twisted reflection, was waiting for him. It had always been waiting. And now, it was coming.